My name is Todd Stashwick, and you are at and or listening to, well, you can't be at, but you can be listening to Comics Online. There's no at. It's not a place. It's not a place.
It's a mental state of being.
But thanks for showing up. You are in Comics Online.
Todd, it's a year later. We finally get to talk Star Trek. Thank you so much for sharing time with me once again.
Has it been a year?
It has been a year since we last saw each other.
And you brought me pizza last time.
And that was so much fun.
Somebody just brought me Garibaldi's. Oh. Have you done Garibaldi's yet?
Mm-mm.
It's out in Hoffman Estates. Best like sub sandwiches, hot melted cheese and pizza. It's great.
So did I start a trend where people just start bringing you food?
That's what it is.
conventions?
That's what it is. It's in my rider. People must bring me food.
So let's start off with Star Trek Picard. Obviously, your character entered the world and getting to interact with the next generation characters. I know you've been a fan of Star Trek. How was it stepping in and being on stage with these legendary actors?
So I started watching Next Gen, or I was really watching Next Gen after I graduated college and I was pursuing acting. And so I had been watching them from an acting standpoint. I was like 22, I think, when I was really into Next Gen. And so I was watching it less as like a fanboy and more as like, what are they doing as actors? Like studying their choices. And, you know, you look at TV different when you're pursuing it as your profession. Now, I came to Star Trek in '74 as a boy, watching the animated series and the original series. So I have a different relationship to TOS than I do to TNG. So what was really fun about TNG was I got to act with people who I've been admiring as actors more than characters. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like I was like, this is Jean-Luc Picard. It was like, oh, this is cool. I get to do scenes with Frakes, and I get to do scenes with Gates. And, like, these are actors whose work I've admired as actors. And so that was a different thing rather than, I guess, if I was stepping on the Millennium Falcon, we'd be having a different conversation because I was 8, right? So I think you hold things in a different place depending on when they came into your life. And TNG came into my life when I was an adult. So I have a different relationship to it than I do like TOS or things that I came to as a child. And it was, but no less exciting and no less fun. But it wasn't like daunting. Like if I had to do scenes with Han Solo, I might not be able to make eye contact, right? I have that fan in me. But it was more like respect with the TNG guys and what they did and how they carved out and a job that they had of bringing new things to the table of something that was already established. And I was then in their position. I was a new character in an already established franchise and wondering how the audience is going to react to that. So they were different conversations in my head than if it was just fanboy Todd.
How did it feel going from the very beginning of who is this guy? Why is he harassing Jean-Luc and Riker? To if they kill him, we riot.
I'm always fascinated as to the question of why I was reacting to those guys when they show up on my ship without orders, wanting to just take it. The fact that people question why, I find very funny, because it's like, well, of course, a good captain doesn't let somebody just take their ship without orders, regardless of rank. Like, you don't just get to do that. If somebody had come onto Picard's ship and said, hey, I want to take it, and I don't have orders, Picard would have said no. But because the show is called Picard, you're on their side, and I'm the bad guy. As far as the rider, whether we riot when he dies, like that stuff blows me away. I'm so humbled by that, people's reaction to this guy. And I mean, I knew the arc of the writing. I knew where it was going and that he was going to start out sort of crunchy and disagreeable and then grow into being self-sacrificial. So that was really really cool. Like it was cool, and it was humbling. Like, you don't expect that reaction. I knew people were going to have a reaction to him, but you never know the heights to which that they will react. So it was fun to to sort of watch all that play out on social media.
How was it filming your death scene?
That's always fun. Like, it's always, that's all the Shakespeare of it all, right? You get to die in someone's arms, and I got to die in Jeri Ryan's arms. Like, if you gotta go, what a way to go. It also was, it might have been the last thing I shot. So it was sort of poetic that, like, oh no, I had to come back, I think, after and shoot the hologram of me promoting her, which is still sequential, right? Like, he does sort of come back from the dead in that moment because, you know, we get to see him alive again. But yeah, so it was kind of beautiful and poetic and sad and wonderful and all the things that you get into acting for. Yeah.
So let's pivot. So after we met last year and getting to know you and Terry over the last year or so, I went and binged 12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
That was such a fun show.
Good show, right?
I was not expecting to get hooked, and the
And
writing
why?
and the
Why
cliffhangers.
were you not expected to get hooked?
It was just more how quickly I got brought in, and there was a very well executed hook at the end where you're just like, okay, well, I need to see what happens next, and I don't want to wait for that next piece.
He also, Terry has a great, and I don't want to shortchange the other writers either, because they were many of the same writers for Picard. Chris Monfett, Sean Tretta. They have a knack for building characters that you care about their outcomes and building sympathy. And then he's also.
Are you singing a song?
I am.
Are you singing? What are you
Gray skies are gonna clear up, put on a happy face. Yeah, I saw her with the mic and I thought she was singing. Because the odds of Bonnie actually singing at any point with a mic in her hand are pretty high.
I'm going to release these interviews sequentially, by the way, so we have her start off, and we'll go to that next. So
Perfect. So I think what he has, he and the writers have a knack of doing is casting really well. And I say that not saying, look, I was cast, so he was smart to cast me. What I mean is like the casting of Emily Hampshire, the casting of Amanda Schull, of Aaron Stanford, Kirk Acevedo, Barbara Sukova, like, and Allison Richmond, Peck. Like, he casts so well, and then writes to the actors that he casts so well that you kind of fall in love with these people and you care about what happens to them next. Then weave into that just a ripping sci-fi time travel yarn that is treating time travel in a way that it's never been treated. I'm so proud to have been a part of that show.
the fact that you guys knew you had an ending point in mind, I think, allowed for it really to come through even stronger as far as the execution and just more of the payoff for the fans.
Yeah. It when they picked up season 3, they also picked up season 4 back to back and said, okay, start writing towards an end. Know that you're going to land this plane. And that gave us it afforded them the opportunity to really justify and tie up loose ends from even season 1. And so that is not an easy task. And the fact that they were able to go, oh, okay, we don't have to worry about dangling any carrots for another season. We get to really tie it all together beautifully and tell one story. That's a rare thing in television, because sometimes you just get the plug pulled mid-season, riches. That we benefited from it, and I think the audience benefited from it.
Yeah, you're right. So many sci-fi series have been canceled. Sliders is still one that I'm, hoping
You're
will
bitter.
ever.
You're bitter.
I am very bitter about
Yeah,
Sliders.
I see your Sliders
Jerry,
T-shirt right now.
Jerry O'Connell and I have talked about Sliders quite a bit.
Yeah.
But more so, there are so many that just don't get that opportunity to have closure, and the fact that you guys were able to tie it all together so beautifully was important. But also, from a time travel perspective, it was different. And I think Stargate is another great example of a movie translated to a TV show, just like what you guys did, where it took the original concept and expanded it in a way that was organic, but also continued in that same
spirit. It built on the
spirit.
mythology, right? Yeah. Kind of lovely. Yeah. Proud of that show. That show, look, Friends for Life, a character that I grew with for 4 seasons. We don't get that. once in a while you get a good one. I've been fortunate to get two with this and Picard. So,
Well, so let's talk about your career in general. How did you get into the world of acting? What drew you to this?
I was a kid who wanted to make people laugh. Like, I was doing Muppet shows in my garage and doing junior high school theater, college theater. It was. I always liked doing that, and I was always living in imagined worlds, playing action figures, playing D&D. Like, this was drawn to movies. That was my pastime. I would jump on my bike and ride to the movie theater for the dollar show. Like, this was part of entertainment was big to me as a kid. And so I think I always knew I wanted to do plays when I was in high school. I'm like, oh, I want to do the musicals. And then I think around junior year, because I was also focusing on art cartooning, which actually my son is now a professional animator. That's what I sort of thought about doing, but it was too quiet, and I didn't like getting notes on my drawing, but I loved the social aspect of theater, and I loved playing characters and doing a show with people. And that's what kind of lit the fuse was mostly high school, doing plays in high school. That mostly was when it started. And then around junior years when I decided that was going to be my career. Yeah.
So my last question to you, tell me more about your Kickstarter, because I was very excited.
Over.
I know, but what do we have to look forward to? Because I was one of your backers.
Thank you.
Just I would love to hear more from you personally of just why you wanted to pursue creating this, this new endeavor.
Well, I did one before where I did a D&D inspired cocktail book with a man named Brandon Cleely, who is a former Imagineer. We did a tiki cocktail book, but Dungeons and Dragons inspired. And so that was the first Kickstarter I had done. And so I knew that, like, this is kind of wonderful. What I like about Kickstarter is it kind of democratizes creation of products. You don't have to wait for the green light from a company to back you. You get to take your idea directly to the public and test market it there. Like, you will learn quickly if there's a demand for the thing you want to make, and if there isn't, then you don't make it. If there is, it's funded, and you make it for the people that actually want it. So I like Kickstarter for that reason. Why I wanted to do the Progcore Fantasy Dark Age of Theer, because I'd already done just a book. So I wanted to expand on that, and I wanted to kind of create a simulation of what it was like to grow up in the late 70s, early 80s, playing D&D and seeing all the fantasy movies and books of that era, and listening to the music of that era, and sort of capturing that, because D&D has had a lot more influences since then with anime and other forays into fantasy that have come between then and now, and I wanted to see if we could capture that vibe of wonder, mystery, and danger, that arcane quality to the way fantasy was presented in that era. And in order to do that right, we needed to do a book, but not only that, we needed to do an animation. We needed to do, because I loved Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, I loved the Rankin and Bass Hobbit, so I wanted to homage that. We needed an album, a digital album, music. So it needed to be all these things in order to create that feeling again. And, we funded, and we're off to the races and writing and crafting. And we wrote the script for the animation, and that's to the animators now. And we'll see we're very excited. We're very excited. We have so many talented people involved.
Well, I know you're very passionate about D&D and gaming, so it was a no-brainer for me to back it, and I can't wait to see it come to fruition. So, but Todd, it's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. When does this come out?
It'll be coming out within the next week or so.
Oh,
so
well, you can still actually, we'll take late pledges at progcorefantasy.com, and there's still tiers that you can jump in on even after we funded. We are taking late pledges, so go to progcorefantasy.com and jump on in.